If thousands of fans mobbed you for an autograph, that might inflate your ego just a little bit. But not so for Backstreet Boy Brian Littrell. He says his faith is really what keeps him grounded. The Backstreet Boys are one of pop music's super success stories. This larger-than-life quintet plays to sold-out crowds all over the world. Their multi-platinum credentials include record sales of 76 million albums and 12 top 40 hits. But millions of screaming fans and hit records are not what keeps Brian Littrell motivated. In spite of his phenomenal career, this Backstreet Boy says his faith and his family are the cornerstones of his life. When the Backstreet Boys World Tour ended last year, Brian decided it was time to release his first solo album, Welcome Home. Brian, so good to meet you. My little daughters were here earlier, got a picture. It was a big moment. The Backstreet Boy. Hey, you know what? I listened to your first solo CD this morning, coming in, and I listened to Welcome Home. Wow. Tell me about it. Tell me about this.
Welcome Home is kind of, lyrically, is right where I'm at in my life. I wrote the song actually in Vienna, Austria, on tour with the Backstreet Boys over in Europe. But I wanted to write a song that kind of talked about exactly where I am and what I'm going through and what I have also been through in my career. Where am I?
Where are you? For people who don't know the story, you're here with me. We're having a little chat. But in your life, where are you? Because going from a Backstreet Boy to listening to this, it's different.
My answer to that is I'm right where God wants me to be. He's had nothing but provision on my life and in my career through adversity and the things that have happened in my life before the Backstreet Boys, as well as during the Backstreet Boys, and even today now as still a Backstreet Boys member, but moving into contemporary Christian music. That's where I'm at.
Let's talk about going back and some of the adversity, because growing up you had a congenital heart defect.
Yes.
You've also had heart surgery more recently, and it's a miracle you're here today. Tell me a little bit about that struggle.
It is a miracle. You talk about God's grace. It's been, you know, His hands have been on my life, my whole life. Grew up in Lexington, Kentucky, was born with a congenital heart defect, a heart murmur. I got an infection, a bacterial infection at the age of 5 that I was not supposed to live from. It's only by the grace of God and a miracle that I'm here today. In my early 20s, through travel, through the stress of my schedule, eating wrong, the things that were going on in my life at that time, at the height of, let's see, this was just before the Millennium record came out.
This was a biggie.
It was pretty big. I had to undergo open heart surgery at 23 years old, which I thought, you know, from the outside, I thought everything was great. My career was going well. Life was good. But yet, God used that as an example to keep my feet on the ground.
Well, I just got this little Christian music magazine yesterday with your big cover, your face on the cover, and I read about that story a little bit, where you sort of felt let down by some friends and band members. I mean, you kind of felt alone, which led you back to God?
Yeah, I think all of these events that have happened in my life that I talk about in this article are things that have always kept me close to God. You know, people from the outside that look at the entertainment world, just like your opening statement when we started the interview was like, you know, if people mobbed you and asked for your autograph, would your head get really big? And there was a time in my career where, you know, you do feel like that. You think that you've accomplished everything, and it's like, oh, life is great. But I think what has always been most important to me is that people respect me for who I am as a person. And I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a man of God, and that's what I want, you know, people to talk about me when I'm not here.
You know what was really cool, I read, is that you live your faith. You don't just talk about it. And you actually boycotted a Rolling Stones shoot.
I did.
Because it compromised your faith a little bit. Tell me about that.
I showed up to the photo shoot, and there were 50 young ladies that were dressed in bathrobes. And I knew that something was wrong. I was not told anything about the photo shoot of what this picture that the photographer was trying to paint. And come to find out, it turned out that they were supposed to be naked in this photo. And it was supposed to portray this image of the Backstreet Boys as larger than life, and we could have anything that we desired because of the music business. And that's not me as a person. That's not who I am.
And your wife, who's sitting over there,
yes,
would not like it either.
No, I didn't, you know, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to disrespect her. I was happily married at the time, still am happily married, and a father of a 3.5-year-old. Life has been nothing but blessing after blessing for me.
So
and
what did the
I
guy
didn't want to
say?
compromise my, my faith and my position with that. So.
And I ask you about this story because I think it's indicative of where so many kids are today. Kids are searching and they're looking for God, but there's always that pull and the temptation to compromise. What was it within you that said, okay, I'm not going to stand for this, and I'm going to stand for my faith? And what was it? How did you feel, even though I'm sure not everybody approved of it at the time?
No, they didn't.
What did they say?
They didn't. I got beat up a little bit, so to say, from the other members, from the production staff that was trying to get this shot done in a timely manner. And
Good for you.
I really stood steadfast in my faith because of my relationship. Everybody talks about, who is God and what is God to you? Well, God to me is a relationship. It's somebody that I have inside that always holds me accountable to Him and Him alone. And I don't have to be accountable to anybody else other than Him. And I knew in that situation is not where, God used that in my favor, to be honest with you. He ended up turning the article around, and where I got a chance to take a picture by myself and actually talk about why I didn't stand with the other guys. And in Rolling Stone magazine, that's, what some people call the pinnacle of, your career. But yet, God used that in my favor to really talk about who I am as a person.
I love it. And it all began with a relationship, as you
Yes.
said, with Jesus.
Yes.
Well, Brian, this is fantastic. The new CD is called Welcome Home. We appreciate you stopping in and talking with us. I have to save this one for my daughters.
Okay.
They love you.
No problem. Thank
And
you.
if you want more information, you can visit livingthelife.com and find out everything there.